As we all know, the holiday season is filled with excitement and celebration for many. And unfortunately, alcohol does play a big role in many people's festivities. However, a combination of good cheer and abundance of alcohol can be dangerous behind the wheel. But you do have some rights when you're pulled over from driving while intoxicated. What should you do if you are arrested? Here to give us some more information and provide insight on these topics, attorney and host of Today's Verdict, my longtime friend.
Right.
We were just talking about how long we know each other.
It's a reunion. Do you know, I was with you on your show back in 2004. That's how long it's been. And I started on your show. And with legal segments, and we're moving on now, Today's Verdict, which we love. Do you know, let me ask you, do you know we have about 75,000 Twitter followers? The most requested topic. Have any idea what the most requested?
I mean, since we're talking about alcohol and drunk driving, I'm going to guess that, but I have no idea.
False arrest. But it's number two.
False arrest.
But number two is the DWI. And, you know, it's the holiday season, and unfortunately, it's the month where we see the most fatalities because of drunken driving, Christmas parties. People get behind the wheel. They think they can do it. They think they're sober enough, and they're not. And by the way, just so the viewers understand that there is no such thing as sobering up. You cannot change the blood alcohol content in your body by
drinking a cup of coffee,
by taking a cold shower, coffee. It doesn't do anything.
Right.
So there is no sobering up. So if you're over the limit, if you the blood alcohol content 0.08 or above, you are driving while intoxicated, DWI.
And get somebody to drive for you. That would be the best suggestion.
That's the best thing. And really just what affects you in terms of your ability to, in terms of your blood alcohol content is how much you drink, how quickly you drink the alcohol, your weight, your gender. These are all things that have to be taken into consideration, and most people don't think about these things, but the most important thing you have to remember is that if you even have a hint of not being able to get behind the wheel, do not do it, because the police are out and they're at the checkpoints. And sometimes some people ask me, checkpoints, I don't, why'd they pull me over and they didn't pull somebody else over? Well, constitutionally, as long as it's random, as long as it's every other car, it could be, doesn't matter. They can't do it based on what the occupants of the car may look like, but they can do every third car, every fourth car. So
it could be you.
It could be you. It could very well be
you. One of the things I just want to suggest, because it was suggested to me a long time ago, that, and I don't know, maybe you'll know if it's true. If you go to a party, the first thing you should do is have a glass of water or a glass of seltzer, and it begins to limit what you ultimately will intake.
It'll fill up your stomach as well,
That's
so you may not want to have some more alcohol. But so let's get a little bit into the law here. So you get pulled over. That's how it starts. You get pulled over, and there are questions. Well, do I have to get out of the car? Yes, you have to get out of the car if they want a sobriety test. You have to do that. Well, that's when people throw out all the different, constitutional provisions. Well, do I have a right to an attorney?
Right. I can refuse.
Right.
I don't want to do it.
I have a right to an attorney. Now, at that point, you don't have a right to an attorney because, by the way, you're not arrested. They're just asking you to get out and to do some tests. And driving is not a right. Many people think that driving and a driver's license is a right. It is a privilege. It's not a right. It's a privilege. It's different under the law. So now you get out and they ask you to do the sobriety test. You do the test, you walk, you don't walk, that's up to you. But now they want you to do the test where you blow into the test to figure out whether or not you're over the limit. And you say, no, I'm not. I don't have to do that. It's a legal search and seizure. It's as if you're taking something from me. You're taking out my.
Is that accurate?
No, it's not. But these are other things that are thrown out there. It's a legal search and seizure. It's like taking my blood. You can't. Nope. It's different. You're not taking a possession. You're allowed to, and you don't have to blow. That's up to you. You don't have to, but it'll be a violation immediately if you don't. And it could be used as evidence against you when the prosecutor brings a case for DWI. And there's a presumption in the law that if you don't blow,
then you
were guilty. So you think you're very slick by saying, "Oh, I'm not going to blow into it." It doesn't work that way, right? Now, this is what the prosecutors generally use to prove DWI. They use video, dash cam, where they can see if you're walking or how you're talking. Other witnesses at the scene, maybe a partner who can testify against you. So if you know, if you drank or didn't drink, you really should blow, no matter what. I mean, that's what we have it there for. So now we're debating, and it's been in the legislature, whether we should be reducing it from 0.08 down to 0.05. And believe it or not, a lot of the alcohol companies are pushing up against it because
Well, they're trying to sell
they're
their product.
selling, and you know, they make money this way, and they don't want to prevent you from having a drink or some alcohol and getting behind the wheel. So there's a big push. Commercial drivers, though, 0.04. So if you're 0.04, you're driving while intoxicated.
Do you have a sense of how how many drinks comes would raise your limit?
It changes. You know, I've had a couple of articles that I read. It really depends on your body weight.
Right.
It depends on if you're slight, if you're big, if you're tall, how much you've eaten. There's no mathematical formula for it. There are some devices that sometimes they put into your car that you can buy where you can test yourself, but you don't really know how accurate
And I think they were also talking about making it so that you couldn't start the car.
That's right. There's an ignition. It's an ignition interlock switch,
Right.
which many times what they'll do is if you've been convicted or you've pled to, let's say, a driving while impaired, which is less, 0.06.
Right.
Okay, driving while impaired. What they'll do is, as probation, they'll give you this interlock system, I don't know, for 6 months or a year, and then they'll know. You have to take the test, and it'll be able to start the car.
What are the potential penalties? I mean, presumably, if it's a repeat offense, you really have
Listen,
a
if
problem.
you're a commercial driver and it's you have a second DWI, you're never getting another commercial license again.
Right.
That's for sure. If you're just somebody who doesn't drive for a living and you end up, with a DWI, they're going to take away your license for 6 months, possibly a year, and if you do it again, it could be a felony. So at the very least, 6 months, you don't blow into that thing, you lost your license for 6 months, no matter what. All right? You'll have to be able to prove that you really weren't DWI. I had a law school friend of mine that happened to him. He refused to blow into the system, and his mother had to drive him to law school for 6 months.
Wow.
And he eventually got it knocked down to driving while impaired, which, by the way, prosecutors are very reluctant to do now. This was 25, 30 years ago. They are very reluctant to don't say, I'm going to plead it. There's no pleading. It doesn't work that way in Bronx County.
I'm just curious, and we're going to have people from the Department of Health on later on in the program. What about drug use, smoking marijuana, or certainly
It's illegal.
opioid?
You can't drive. It's
And
still illegal.
Can they test you on the spot for that?
Well,
I guess that would be a blood test, right?
Well, again, that's not an unreasonable search and seizure, but how are they going to take blood from you at the scene?
Right,
It's
right,
not going
right,
to happen. And maybe an ambulance would take it if you were hurt, and they can use that against you later on when they get the hospital record.
That's
but
the
they
difference.
can't, it's not like the police officer can say, all right, give me your arm, let me pull it and take out your blood, but they can make you blow, which is different.
Listen, this driving thing is a very serious matter, and it's a very serious matter, especially during the holiday season, et cetera, et cetera.
You lose so much. And do you know 1/3 of all fatalities in New York State, vehicle fatalities, come from alcohol related? A third. And don't even get started with the motorcycles. So many motorcycle deaths are a result of those driving motorcycles under the influence of alcohol.
Are there fines that you can get short of having your license taken away?
Well, here are a couple of them. Just want you to know.
We've got about 40 seconds.
Okay, you have. There's really a zero tolerance law for certain things, like driving while impaired. There's a $300 to $500 fine. You could possibly have a suspension for 90 days of your license. That's driving while impaired. There's so many different ones. You really have to go through the statute. Chemical test refusal, revoked for at least a year if it's a commercial driver. So if you're driving an Uber and you say no, I'm not blowing, it's for a year. There are so many different categories based on whether you hurt somebody, God forbid you killed somebody. You could be in jail for 10, 20 years.
Wow.
If you had influence.
David Lesch, how do we find you? Let's see, at Today's Verdict
At
on
David
Twitter.
Lesch, at Today's Verdict. Send me a request for show topics. That's how we get them.
And make sure to check out Today's Verdict on BronxNet Television. David, it's a pleasure.
In regards to the family.
Yes,
Happy
to
holidays.
you too. And you know what, David? Let's celebrate, and if you do have a couple of drinks, let somebody else drive.
That's a good idea.
All right. Listen, David's got you if you need answers to difficult legal questions. Connect with him on Facebook and Twitter, as we said. Tune into Today's Verdict, Tuesdays at 6:30 here on BronxNet Television. We'll be right back with more Open right after this.